Hello, Fulton families and employees. I'm Brian Noyes, Chief Communications Officer for the school district, and I'm with Ron Wade, Chief Talent Officer, and Lynn Meadows, Coordinator of Student Health Services. Thank you both for being here. We wanted to talk to our families a little bit about the holidays coming up and some questions that some of our folks in the community had. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
So what are the questions that's come up? If we could start with, can you, in the situation with COVID right now and leading into the holidays, can you talk to us a little bit about what contact tracing is, why it's important, and how is it generally going?
Well, hey, Brian, this is Ron. I'll let Lynn get into the technical aspect of it because I'm not a medical person for sure. But in terms of, how it's going, I think it's going about as well as one could hope for in a situation like this. I think we really have been, in my opinion, successful in getting our stakeholders, that's our parents, our students, and our staff to respond to this protocol. They are alerting us in a timely fashion and allowing us to get our arms around a potential positive or direct contact or pending test results. So in terms of how our staff and our stakeholders are responding to our ability to really assist them in dealing with a COVID matter, I think that's going well. And a lot of that is due to this infrastructure that we've built. Now, why is contact tracing or case investigation important? I'm gonna let expert respond to that question.
Well, thank you, Ron. Well, first and foremost, contact tracing and case investigation is vitally important as a public health strategy because in the midst of this pandemic, certainly that's a way that we're trying to identify those that might be at risk. So if we can identify those that might be at risk, and risk meaning those that may have come in direct contact with a positive individual, and we can get that person out of the setting, whether it's school or the workplace, that's exactly what we want to do. So because what that does is then minimizes the risk of others and minimizes the risk of spread. So contact tracing and case investigation is just a part of the public health strategy to try to mitigate the spread of the virus.
Yeah, risk mitigation is really important.
Very important.
And I've spoken to you guys quite often about this, and one of the things I keep hearing about is reporting, how important it is for parents and students and employees to report as part of that contact tracing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's extremely important for them to report and to timely report.
Yes.
When they report, it triggers a infrastructure or a running list of actions that allow us to have a case investigator talk to them about how they're feeling, who they've been around, and so it enables us to timely contain any risk that might come from them being positive. But it does rely on one essential thing. Is for the reporter to really give us as many of the facts as they can possibly give us. And it's okay. It's okay to share that. No one's in trouble. The whole objective is to make sure that we're all safe. And so we just ask our stakeholders, employees, students, and parents, when you report and get that call from our response team nurse, tell them everything you know about your situation, who you've been around, because that's critically important in terms of us making a decision on whether we quarantine or not.
Right. Hey, Lynn, let me ask, what triggers something that somebody needs to report? Why does somebody need to report? What do they have to determine that they need to report?
So that's a great question. So if you can think about kind of what you need to report in 3 areas or 3 buckets, the first thing that we're asking employees and students and parents to report is, number 1, if you've tested positive. That's extremely important. That's the first one. The second thing is to report if you've had a direct exposure. So if it's known that you've had a direct exposure, meaning that you've come in contact with someone that is positive, that's also important for us to know because there's public health guidance that then triggers what we do and how we respond to that. And then the last bucket or the third bucket is if you have a test pending. That's important as well, because we would need to find out why you then were tested and what are those surroundings or circumstances surrounding that particular report.
That's all great information. Thank you both. One of the other questions that's coming up is now the holidays are coming up, right? So we have a week off for Thanksgiving. What is some of the advice that you have for families over the holiday?
So I think some of the things that we would advise is stay the course that we're already on with regards to strategies that we know public health and CDC have issued, which are, I like to refer to them as the 3 W's: washing your hands, wearing your mask, and watching your distance. So those 3 things are going to be very critical as we look to go into the holiday season. They're going to become even more important because we know that there's an opportunity then for more families and more friends to be gathering. So just those 3 strategies are so important to adhere to. Again, those 3 things. CDC and public health, you've already may have heard on the news, there are lots of tips that are circulating around about family gatherings, about if you're going to travel, things like that. All of that information, please take to heart. There's prescriptions related to if you have a family gathering, what that dinner kind of needs to look like. We're shifting then, just as an example, from a buffet style dinner, which is the recommendation, to more containment of who's serving the food and making sure you even know who's in the household. Maybe even looking at things, going outdoors to have dinner instead of inside. So strategies like that are going to be really, really important as the holidays come up. So again, but if we can just stay the course and remember those 3 key fundamental things, the 3 W's: wearing your mask, have a mask contest for your family. Who has, just like we have over the holiday, the Christmas holiday, having the ugly sweater, who has the nicest mask? But wear your mask, stay within your bubble if you can. So watch your distance, wash your hand, keep your surfaces clean. If you're traveling, there's also precautions to take if you're traveling and things to be mindful about.
That's really helpful. Go ahead, Ron.
Right. One more thing I would mention is, this is the gathering season. And whether you're doing it in a small gathering with your family members or with your neighbors or friends, people want to get together. And I think given the longevity of the pandemic today, it's just people really feel like they need to do that. And so it likely will happen. I would say at some point after, as the events and the gatherings sort of wind down and you're on the eve of trying to go back into the workplace or school, that you pay particular attention to your own health. Pay attention to what your body is telling you and really don't take it for granted. And let that inform what you do, whether you go on into the workplace or to school or you call your own medical provider and get more information about that. So pay attention to your body is going to be very important.
That's wonderful. So you've had a wonderful time with your family. You've been incredibly cautious, had the mask contest, ate outside or whatever you needed to do. And we're getting ready to come back after Thanksgiving break. What can employees and families who are coming back face to face expect at Fulton County Schools once we come back from Thanksgiving?
So I think anyone who's paying attention to the news and what the experts are saying, that there is an expectation that there's going to be an uptick in positive cases after the gatherings. And so again, what they can expect from us is making sure that we're reinforcing those things that Lynn mentioned, the mask wearing, the social distance, paying attention to your surroundings. Those are going to be some things we're going to be reinforcing. We're going to be really talking about how it's important that if you do feel that you are not feeling well, that you report that and be prepared to answer a lot of questions if that is the case. So we're gonna stay the course, but we might be a bit more communicative in terms of pushing out those messages.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing is to just don't drop your guard during this time. Remain vigilant of those 3 things. And it's important, as Ron said, not just after we return to make sure that you're paying attention to your health status, but even during the holidays. If you're not feeling well, don't go to your family gathering. So all those things are extremely important.
Yeah, Brian, and we're as an organization, we're going to be paying very close attention in terms of what we see as positives or disruptions to our school. And so let's be reasonable and real here with what the experts are saying in terms of the uptick. We could see a school heavily impacted, but know that we're going to be on it. We're going to be responsive to try to address and mitigate that using some of the same protocols that Lynn mentioned earlier. Our job is to try to keep our employees and our students and family as safe as possible as they return back to work and school.
Yes.
And so our hope when we come back is to have everybody safe, follow the same protocols we've been following. And if there are instances, we'll react as we've been reacting with caution and notifying individuals and following the steps that we've been following. Any final thoughts that you all have before everybody goes off to the holidays?
I think I'll just add that to your point, Brian, and you summed up everything very, very well. One of the things that I think that it is important for parents and staff to know is that we just didn't start this, that we have since March, really, we have always continued to monitor the data and the trends. We'll do that. We'll continue to do that even as we return. That will be something that obviously we closely watch. The leadership team meets twice a week where we're looking at our data and trends so that we can respond very quickly.
And I would say this too, Brian. I mean, we've learned a lot since March, and I think we've responded in terms of the systems and structures we put in place to address and respond to COVID. But we're also still learning, just like everyone else around this pandemic. And we're looking for those opportunities where we need to improve. But this, in order for us to get back to schooling, it requires the engagement and active participation and collaboration of all of us. All of us, all of our school communities, recognizing that it's important that they not only look out for themselves, but also look out for their neighbor and their fellow students. It is a collective endeavor without a doubt. And that's how we fortify ourselves against the risks associated with this. And we can get back to schooling in a real and meaningful way.
Wonderful. Well, I learned a lot from both of you all today, and hopefully folks that are watching can also learn some things, and hope that we will be able to come back and talk to you again, maybe in a few weeks once we get into the holidays and any other information we need to notify our community about. So thank you both for your time.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.